The world has joined to find a vaccine for the novel coronavirus. Scientists and medical researchers across the globe are scrambling for the first breakthrough, since the virus spreads easily and is already overwhelming the healthcare system of most countries. A vaccine is the most effective way of putting a pause on the spread of infectious disease. At present, almost 80 groups globally are working at breakneck speed for the same, even though a vaccine fit for humans normally takes years to develop. Currently, there are 111 potential vaccines for the SARS-CoV-2, which are in different stages of clinical trials. By cutting the normal time frame required in preclinical and clinical trials, Italy, the Italian scientists have claimed to develop first vaccine that has successfully generated antibodies in mice that work on human cells. It has been tested in the Spallanzani Hospital in Rome. It is said to be one of the most advanced stages of testing of a potential vaccine in the country, as the vaccine neutralizes the SARS-CoV-2 virus in the human cells, even though they reached preclinical stage till now. Next is the Oxford vaccine against COVID-19. Oxford University initiated a phase 1 human clinical trial of its vaccine on the 23rd of April, where only 2 volunteers were injected, instead of 80 to 100 volunteers as per protocol. Elisa Granato is one of the first ones to get injected with the vaccine. The vaccine ChAdOx1nCoV-19 was developed under 3 months by the university's Jenner Institute. They need to repeat the trials in larger number to complete phase 1. Next is United States. Here, the drug companies begins human trials of COVID-19 vaccine. There are currently 8 COVID-19 vaccines, which have entered the clinical trial phase. Pfizer and BioNTech, pharmaceutical companies have partnered together and have started the clinical trials of their BNT162 vaccine program. Both the companies are working on 4 RNA vaccine candidates, and they injected 12 healthy adults with the mRNA vaccine candidate, and waiting for response of vaccine to continue phase 1 trial in large number of volunteers. Israel on the 7th of May, Israel Defence Minister Naftal Bennett announced the country that had a remarkable breakthrough in the development of COVID-19 vaccine. He said that the Israel Institute for Biological Research has developed a monoclonal neutralizing antibody, which will effectively neutralize novel coronavirus in the body of the carriers. COVID-19 vaccine in India. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed India's status in developing a vaccine for the novel coronavirus. It was found that more than 30 vaccines are in different stages of development, while a few are ready to go to clinical trial stages. It is also important to note that the Pune-based Serum Institute of India is the world's largest vaccine maker, and India produces 60% of the world's vaccines. In China, according to WHO, the CanSino Bio and Shenzhen Geno Immune Medical Institute developed vaccines which are undergoing clinical phase 1 and phase 2 human trials respectively. CanSino Bio company have a previous success in Ebola vaccine. In Netherlands, the research group used to modify the BCG vaccine and to provide more protection against SARS-CoV-2 and have entered phase 2 clinical trials. The Australia started BRACE trial of BCG vaccination. On a randomized trial and 4,000 healthcare workers across their continent reached phase 2. Out of all vaccines from different countries, only 5 preclinical vaccines entered human clinical trials, which is also by cutting the time frame and waiting for possible outcomes. But still remains a question whether these vaccine made in short time makes any risk. Looking into the current crisis, a new 12 to 18 month time frame has been proposed, with teams around the world working with increasing speed to find an effective candidate and started human trials. COVID-19 lives in the shadow of the most vexing virus we've ever faced, HIV. After nearly 40 years of work, here is what we have to show for our vaccine efforts. A few phase 3 clinical trials, one of which actually made the disease worse, and another with a success rate of just 30%. Some experts have warned against proceeding to a clinical trial before knowing whether a vaccine triggers an immune response in animals. There are also some tests that can be done only on animals. For example, after the injection, a dissection can show where the vaccine went and whether there's any damage. And there are important differences between the COVID-19 outbreak and Ebola, for which successfully developed vaccine within 3 years. Ebola was localized, so scientists were able to better address a smaller, more targeted population. The coronavirus, by contrast, is spreading all over the globe. In addition, COVID-19 more seriously affects elderly people whose immune systems don't work as well, or people who have illnesses that can confound the ability to respond to a vaccine. Another concern is what effect a failed effort could have on the growing challenge of vaccine skepticism. It wasn't long ago that the biggest issue around vaccines in Europe was that people weren't using them enough. Some fear that rushing a vaccine through the regulatory process could just make this problem worse. And the regulators can't stop a trial as soon as there are signs something's going wrong. This happened when Merck tested a vector-based vaccine against HIV once it showed signs of increasing the rate of infection in some people. But some issues with vaccines aren't discovered until they've already been approved. One infamous example was a dengue vaccine that was found to make the disease worse for some people 2 years into use. The challenge doesn't end with clinical trials. Even if a vaccine is rapidly developed and approved, the next step is making it available to millions of people. Some drug makers are getting ready now, but it will take several months to meet the needs of their respective countries and investors. The worry is that by the time a vaccine is produced, the world might be looking at a completely new version of the virus. We have to do testing when there's high transmission, because this allows researchers to see if the vaccine is actually protecting people against the virus while it's in circulation. An even bigger concern is that viruses mutate, meaning that a vaccine that works on an early strain could be less effective on later versions. Pointing to the 2009 swine flu pandemic as an example of a virus that mutated. Even though it spread rapidly, it became a much less deadly seasonal flu very quickly. Whether that's true for this virus is hard to say. However, there are already 8 reported strains circulating with mutation. Finally, when it will be available for whole population. So far, only 5 vaccines entered phase 2 human trials, and no one entered phase 3 trials, due to known infamous adverse effects of short-time production. When successful phase 2 candidate vaccines move on to larger trials, involving thousands to tens of thousands of people, one phase 3 goal is to assess vaccine safety in a large group of people. Certain rare side effects might not surface in the smaller groups of subjects tested in earlier phases. Vaccine efficacy is tested as well. These factors might include: does the candidate vaccine prevent disease? Does it prevent infection with the pathogen? Does it lead to production of antibodies or other types of immune responses related to the pathogen? Next steps is to approval and licensure. After a successful phase 3 trial, the vaccine developer will submit a biologics license application to the FDA. Then the FDA will inspect the factory where the vaccine will be made and approve the labeling of the vaccine. Post-licensure monitoring of vaccines includes a variety of systems monitor vaccines after they have been approved. They include phase 4 trials, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, and the Vaccine Safety Data Link. In a way, saying we won't have a vaccine for 12 to 18 months puts a cap on people's ambitions and doesn't encourage rapid development, and it should undergo through appropriate human trial in wide range of people and much enough time to be waited for its possible side effects before making it available for public. And the vaccine will probably prevent the disease in 2022 or later. Getting a safe vaccine is better, since this vaccine to be given around the globe. Social distancing and personal hygiene are safe for prevention so far.